Welcome back to the deep dive. It is Tuesday, February 10th, 2026.
Hmm.
And if you are anywhere in the northern hemisphere, I mean specifically in that massive hardwood belt stretching from the Midwest up through New England and deep into Canada, you know exactly what time it is.
It is the absolute peak of the season.
It is maple time. Now, I have to be honest with you. Before I opened this stack of research you sent over, I was definitely in the camp of people who just see maple syrup as, a sticky condiment.
The bottle on the diner table.
Exactly. You put it on waffles, maybe you glaze a salmon if you're feeling ambitious. But looking at these sources, we've got technical bulletins from Ohio State, sustainability studies from Cornell. I'm realizing I have completely underestimated what is actually going on out there.
I think that's the common experience. We tend to romanticize it. We picture the metal bucket, the horse-drawn sleigh.
The steam rising from a sugar shack.
Right. And that exists, sure. But when you really dig into these sources, you realize modern maple production isn't just farming. It is a massive exercise in what I call dendrological engineering.
Dendrological engineering. That sounds intense.
It is intense because fundamentally, we aren't just harvesting a crop that's sitting there like picking an apple. We are performing surgery. We are intervening in the high-stakes physics and biology of a living thing to extract its energy.
Without killing the host.
And that is the mission for this deep dive. We're going to move past the romance and get into the hardware wars, the tree physiology, and the math required to get that syrup onto your breakfast table.
And it all starts with a wound.
Right. Let's
Yes.
unpack that.
Done.
Because tapping sounds so gentle. It sounds, non-invasive. But what we're really doing is drilling a hole into a living tree to take its energy reserves.
Precisely. You're drilling into the sapwood, the xylem. That's the pipeline that carries water and nutrients up from the roots. And trees, well, much like humans, they do not like being drilled into. They have an immune response.
I was reading through the section on tree physiology, and this is where things got a little dark for me. The tree doesn't heal the way we do, does it? No, not at all. If you cut your finger, your skin regenerates, and eventually that cut just disappears.
Right.
Trees never forget. They operate on a principle called CODO.
CODIT.
Right. It stands for compartmentalization of decay in trees.
So instead of fixing the hole, they isolate it.
Exactly. They wall it off. When you drill that tap hole, the tree chemically seals the wood all around that injury to prevent bacteria and rot from spreading to the rest of the trunk.
It's sacrificing a piece of itself to save the whole.
Perfectly could. And this creates what the research calls a stain column.
A stain column. So if you were to cut down a tap tree and slice it open, you'd see it.
Oh yeah, you'd see these vertical streaks of dead, stained wood above and below every single old tap hole. And that wood is non-functional. It can never transport sap again. It's just dead weight.
This was the first stat in the Cornell study that really stopped me. I just assumed the damage was the size of the drill bit. But this stain column is massive.
It's huge. The rule of thumb in the literature is that the stain column is roughly 50 times the volume of the actual hole you drilled.
50 times.
50 times. So every time you drill a hole, you aren't just losing that quarter inch of space, you are decommissioning a significant vertical strip of the tree's internal plumbing.
That completely changes the sustainability conversation. You're essentially running a clock on the tree's useful life.
You are. And that realization is what drives the entire history of maple technology. It's a history of trying to make that injury smaller.
Which brings us to the great Spiles size debate. I didn't realize there was so much controversy over the little thing you stick in the tree.
Oh, it's a huge debate. For generations, the standard was a 716-inch spile, a big, sturdy piece of hardware. But when you do the math, a 716-inch hole kills about 11.3 cubic inches of wood inside that tree.
That sounds like a lot of real estate to lose every single year.
It is, which
Huh.
is why the industry has been shifting toward what they call health spouts, these smaller 516-inch spiles.
The difference sounds negligible on a ruler, but biologically it's a big deal.
It's massive. A 516-inch hole only kills about 5.75 cubic inches of wood. You're literally cutting the internal damage in half.
But here's the question I have, and I know producers are asking this. If I make the hole smaller, don't I get less sap? It feels like basic plumbing.
You would think so. Bigger pipe, more flow. But the research from the Proctor Maple Research Center contradicts that. They found no statistically significant loss in sap yield, especially if you're using a modern vacuum system.
No way.
The limiting factor isn't the hole size, it's the tree's own internal pressure.
So you get the same amount of syrup, but you do less damage to the tree.
And you speed up recovery. A 516-inch hole can heal over, meaning the bark grows back, in 1 to 2 years. Those big old 716-inch holes, they can stay open for 3 years or more.
And an open wound is just an invitation for rot and insects.
Exactly.
Okay, so smaller is better. But let's talk about the hardware itself. I always picture those classic silver metal spiles, but the sources suggest a bit of a hardware war between metal and plastic.
It's the classic battle between durability and utility. Stainless steel spiles are bomb-proof. You can boil them to sterilize them, which is crucial. And if you're hanging a heavy bucket, I mean, we're talking 30-plus pounds of sap,
Right.
you need that steel.
Plastic would just snap.
Right. But then you have the polycarbonate spiles, and one of the sources points out something I hadn't thought of. Visibility.
For the tubing systems.
Right. If you're running thousands of trees connected by plastic veins through the forest, you need to find leaks. Clear polycarbonate lets you see the bubbles. You can see the flow.
But the real game changer in the plastic world seems to be this check valve innovation. This feels like the moment where physics really enters the chat.
This is fascinating, and it's a little bit gross.
Uh.
So imagine the tree is flowing during the day. The sun's out, pressure's high, sap is pushing out.
Okay.
But then night falls, and the temperature drops below freezing.
The tree freezes up.
It does. And when that happens, the pressure inside the tree drops, and it actually creates suction. It tries to pull liquid back in.
It's inhaling.
It is literally inhaling.
Yeah.
And the problem is, if you have a tube full of sap sitting there that's been in the sun all day, it's loaded with yeast and bacteria.
And the tree sucks that dirty sap back into the tap hole.
And its immune system detects it, says, whoa, infection, and it immediately tries to wall off that hole.
It closes up shop early.
Exactly. The check valve is just a tiny ball inside the spile. Sap flows out, the ball moves, suction starts, the ball slams shut. No backflow.
And the result of that tiny ball?
The sources say it can increase yield by 33%, just by keeping the tap hole clean.
33%. That is a massive margin. It's like putting a heart valve in a maple tree to bypass its own immune system.
In a way, yeah. It keeps the tree tricked into thinking the wound is still fresh and sterile.
I want to move to the actual act of tapping now. Because you have to go out into the cold and drill the hole. And the Ohio sources had this one detail that made me laugh. The snowshoes effect.
This is a real problem in the snow belt places that get massive snow accumulation.
So walk me through this mistake.
Okay, it's February.
Ah.
You're standing on 3 feet of packed snow. You drill your hole at waist height, which is comfortable. You hang your bucket, all good.
Until April.
Until April, when the snow melts. And suddenly, your bucket is hanging 6 feet in the air.
It's hovering out of reach.
And good luck lifting a heavy gathering tank up over your head to empty that thing. You have to think four-dimensionally. You have to tap at your knees in February to be at your waist in April.
There's also a hygiene rule that I think everyone needs to hear. The don't blow rule.
It's the most common beginner mistake. You drill the hole, you see wood shavings, and your instinct is to just puff, blow them out.
Like an old Nintendo cartridge. It feels right.
And it is the worst thing you can do. You are blasting that sterile, open wound with millions of bacteria from your mouth. You're guaranteeing that tap hole will get infected and dry up early.
So how do you get them out?
You rely on the drill. A sharp bit.
Yeah.
You keep the drill spinning as you pull it out, and the flutes of the bit act like an Archimedes screw. They pull the shavings out with them.
And speaking of the drill, there's a warning about wiggling.
Yes. You're tired, you're on hole number 500, and your wrist wobbles. You don't create a perfect circle, you create an oval.
And they don't make oval spiels.
Exactly. An oval hole with a round spindle means a vacuum leak. It means sap running down the bark instead of into your collection system.
So when you're out there drilling, can you actually tell if you've hit a bad spot, like one of those old stain columns?
Absolutely. You watch the shavings. You want snow white shavings.
Yeah.
That's healthy sapwood.
Yeah.
If they come out brown or dark yellow, stop immediately.
What does the brown mean?
It means you've hit an old stain column or maybe some rot. That wood is dead. It won't give you any sap. You have to move over and try again.
That connects back to the sustainability math from Cornell. They talk about tapping real estate.
This is a sobering part of the science. In a crowded forest, a maple might only grow 0.04 inches in radius per year. That's tiny.
So it's growing slower than we're drilling into it.
Exactly. If you're drilling 2 inches deep every year, but the tree is adding almost no new wood, you eventually catch up to yourself. You run out of new wood to tap.
So sustainable syrup isn't just about not cutting the tree down. It's a 50-year math equation.
Precisely. You have to farm the forest, not just mine it.
Okay, so we've done everything right. We've got the sap flowing, but what are we actually collecting? Not all maples are created equal, right?
No, they are not. If you are a purist, You want the sugar maple or the black maple. That's the gold standard. Their sap starts at around 2% sugar.
The benchmark.
Right. But then you have red and silver maples. You can tap them, but their sugar content is lower, maybe 1.5%. That sounds close, but it means way more fuel and way more time boiling.
And then there's the outlier, the box elder.
The box elder. Technically a maple, but you aren't getting that classic maple flavor. The sources describe the syrup as sorghum-like.
And potentially bitter.
Very bitter if you're not careful. It's a niche product for sure.
There's a term in the chemistry section that sounds ominous. Buddy syrup.
It is the end of the line. The season ends because the tree wakes up. When the buds start to swell, the red maples actually turn red. The chemistry of the sap changes instantly.
And the flavor.
The tree starts pumping different compounds to feed the leaves. If you boil that sap, you get a flavor the sources call bitter butterscotch. And once you have that buddy taste, it's over. You can't boil it out.
So producers are in a race against the tree's biological clock.
Always. And as spring warms up, that clock ticks faster and faster.
And while they're racing, they're boiling. The numbers here are just exhausting. The 43-to-1 rule.
It is a labor of love. To get 1 gallon of syrup, you have to boil away 42 gallons of water. You're concentrating that 2% sugar all the way up to about 67%.
And that requires incredible precision with temperature. This isn't just bubbling.
No, this is pure physics. Water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit at sea level. But as you add sugar, the boiling point rises. Syrup isn't legally syrup until it boils at roughly 7 degrees above the boiling point of water. So about 219 degrees.
And there's a narrow window there.
Extremely narrow. If you take it off at 215, it's too thin. It'll ferment and spoil. If you let it go to 225, you've made rock candy. It crystallizes in the bottle. You have to hit that 7-degree mark perfectly.
And while you're managing all that, you also have to worry about pickles.
The pickle jar warning. My favorite tip. Never, ever use an old pickle jar or spaghetti sauce jar to collect sap.
Even if you wash it really well?
Even if you run it through the dishwasher 3 times. The plastic in the lid, even the glass, can hold on to those strong oils. And remember, you are concentrating the sap 43 times.
Oh, no.
Which means you are also concentrating that garlic dill flavor 43 times. You will end up with very expensive, very gross dill pickle flavored syrup.
I want to pivot to the human element. We've talked about the science, but it's applied by people. One of the sources highlighted a producer named Kevin Holy from Seldom Seen Farm.
This is a great story. Kevin and his wife Morgan started out with just a horse named Seldom Seen and about 10 taps. A backyard hobby.
And now they have 4,000 taps. But what struck me was his philosophy. In this industry that's all about efficiency, he talks about patience.
He said there's no rushing, and that's the paradox of maple. You can have the best tech in the world, but you can't force the tree to give you sap. You are on nature's schedule.
Although he does admit to using some modern tech, we should talk about reverse osmosis.
Yes, RO. It's standard for commercial producers now. Before they even start boiling, they run the raw sap through a machine that pushes it through a high-pressure membrane. It removes about 75% of the water mechanically.
So you're starting the boil with a concentrate.
Exactly. Instead of 2% sugar, you might be starting at 8% or 10%. It saves a massive amount of fuel and cuts the boiling time in half. It lets a family farm process sap from 4,000 trees without living in the Sugar Shack 247.
It's that balance. Again, dendrological engineering meets traditional farming.
It is. Using high-tech membranes to keep doing this old-fashioned thing sustainably.
So we've gone from the 516-inch wound through the check valves that stop the tree from inhaling bacteria into the evaporator to hit that magic 219 degrees and onto the table. It really changes how you look at breakfast.
It should. Every drop of that syrup is a victory of biology and physics.
And before we let you go, you found one last piece of research that hints at where this is all going next. We talked about plastic versus metal, but the future might be silver.
This is really cutting edge. Researchers are testing spills that are impregnated with silver ions, Ag ions.
Like antimicrobial silver you'd find in bandages.
Exactly the same principle. Silver naturally kills bacteria. The early studies are showing these silver spills can reduce the bacteria count in the tap hole by 55%.
Which means the tap hole stays clean longer.
Which means the tree doesn't wall it off as quickly. It could extend the season by weeks. It could revolutionize the yield again, just like the check valve did.
Wow.
It just goes to show that this centuries-old tradition is still evolving. We're still learning how to do it better.
It's amazing to think the difference between a good year and a bad one could come down to ions on a plastic spout.
It's all in the details.
Well, next time you are at a diner and you reach for that bottle, take a second to appreciate the engineering inside. And maybe give it a sniff to make sure it doesn't smell like pickles.
Always check for pickles.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll see you next time.